Welcome to Buddies and Banter, the Uncensored Podcast, where our topics are raw, our opinions are strong, and our filters are definitely off.
And you are off.
Well, I think you are too.
That's a given.
Welcome. I know it's been a while since we've been in the podcast. We had a couple of busy weeks off-site.
It has been.
What's that?
I said it has been.
Yeah, but we are back.
Yes.
Just in time for here in Texas for early voting to start.
And we both have our little tags on.
Oh, that's cool. There you go.
Yes.
We both. Today was the first day
Yeah.
for Texas.
What's your plan for voting?
I'm gonna vote. I'll give you the sticker. I'll get the sticker.
But the question is when?
When? Well, voting is.
Well, it's till the 1st.
Yeah, I got time.
Is early voting, and then the 5th is the actual day.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get the sticker.
Yeah, well, you can get those anywhere.
No, I will get the sticker.
I mean, the guy, when I was walking out,
myself accountable to it.
When I was walking out, the guy said, "Hey, take them all." And I'm like, "What?"
Because then, so that way, that's the when you go vote. You want to get your sticker.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, definitely. And it's because I knew that we were going to be doing the podcast today, so definitely wanted to actually show it off. That we have voted. We have actually done our civic duty, folks.
It was the first day, and probably had to wait about 40 minutes. 40 minutes was the whole thing.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because here in this particular neighborhood where we went, I didn't expect it to be that busy, to be honest with you, straight off the bat.
Oh, I did.
Well, I know you went by earlier to check on it, and it wasn't, but then all of a sudden when we got there, it got super busy. I was assuming that, maybe the afternoon it would pick up.
Well, no, because it's just like, if you went the very beginning when it first opened, then nobody will be. But as the morning goes on, more and more people are getting there. And it's like, when we left, the line was even longer than when we started.
Yeah, it was. And I think they were getting a little bit nervous, too. The guy that actually was in charge is the one who told me to take the stickers as many as I wanted. I could see he was a little freaked out about, and then he started talking about, I should have brought more chairs out. I said, yeah, considering the age of these people who are lined up, you should have.
Well, because I'm sure it is in other states, but in Texas, when you early vote, you can go anywhere in the county.
Okay. Correct. You don't have to go to your precinct.
You don't have to go to your precinct. But if you vote on the election day, you have to go to your precinct.
Yeah, and it's always better to do early voting simply because depending on where your precinct is, my old one downtown, it was packed on election day. I mean, and you'd wait there for a couple hours. I mean, I think we. This was down towards Reverend Park, and I think there was probably maybe 10 machines to do, and that was it. So I mean, you can imagine that entire neighborhood was always packed.
For the past 15 years, I've gone to the same place for early voting. This church, just half a mile from my house, or whatever. And I found out that this year they're not doing the early voting because it's a church, but then they also have school at this church, and they just with getting so politically violent,
MAGAs,
and all this other stuff is they
cult members.
Why are you looking at me like that and licking your lips at the same time?
I'm just saying.
They just decided they weren't going to put up with it this year.
Yeah. I mean, we've done our civic duty. We're not telling you who to vote for except for Kamala.
And Colin.
If
you're in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, we really want to talk about that debate a little bit as well, that Colin and Rafael Cruz had the other day.
How was your night last night after reading that? Listen to the audio.
Oh, that was fine. That was fine.
Oh,
what was the
that's
audio?
Not compelling audio.
Well, no, I mean, the one that he'd sent us all in regards to the tariffs and stuff like that. I mean, I have argued with more people online about tariffs than you can even be remotely imagine. Anybody who has any lick of common sense would understand that when he's out there talking about tariffs and how he's going to do 200% or 2,000, whatever he's talking about, it's just absolute bullshit. That is not going. I mean, he may do it, but it doesn't mean it's not going to affect our pockets,
right?
Because it will. Because the way the tariffs work is the people purchasing is the one who pays the tariffs. So if they put a tariff on us, our products going into their country is what their people are going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And what are our people here, our importers here, they're going to tag it onto the prices. We're going to pay it. So,
and I mean, Trump did a meeting or whatever with the Chicago business people, and the guy moderating
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg?
Bloomberg was the one. Not Michael Bloomberg, but the guy from Bloomberg was the one who was moderating.
And he's been working with knowing terrorists for like 20 years.
Well, longer. He's old.
Well, yeah, but I was just like, and he kept asking Trump these questions about, well, this is going to do this. And he goes, no, you don't know anything about tariffs. I know exactly what's going to happen and stuff like that. And it's just like, that's bullshit.
Well, I mean, we have historical data that shows us exactly when he put the tariffs on place, especially against China, that it obviously hurt our trade deficit, number one, and it obviously shut up the entire deficit. I mean, it's billions of dollars that he fucked us on. And we won't even begin to talk about the farmers and how they were affected. So basically, with the tariffs that we were putting on, they countered it. So when it came time to export our grain and stuff like that, they weren't doing it. They went somewhere else. Yeah. So our farmers were going bankrupt. So what did we have to do as a nation? We gave them subsidies, billions and billions of dollars. And if we hadn't, they would have been out of business, and we would have had nothing the next year and the year after that. So, I mean, the guy is just absolutely bonkers in regards to when it comes to these damn tariff shit. And we won't even start talking about he's going to actually not tax tips. Just pay them the fucking good wage, first of all. You don't need to do tips, just like they do in Europe. But there's no way in hell Congress is going to let you pass the law.
But I thought he was going to get rid of overtime.
Yeah, Project 2025 is.
So if you get rid of overtime, then there's no tax on overtime.
They're not going to get rid of overtime. That's how a lot of people make their money, isn't overtime.
If you look in Project 2025, they are eliminating overtime.
California?
Federally, they will actually increase the number of hours that you would work a week before you get overtime. So when he gets out there and he starts talking about, well, I'm not going to tax overtime. Of course you're not. There's not going to be any fucking overtime. Your Project 2025 is eliminating it.
Yeah, I didn't heard that one. Who's going to eliminate it? Trump?
Project 2025.
Yeah.
It'll be a federal.
Yeah, it's federal. It literally is the transition manifesto going into the conservative government. People don't realize this. I mean, I haven't read all 920 pages, but I'm getting through it. Trust me. And
I've read zero.
Well, it's not a lot of excitement in there. To be honest with you,
this is really good, by the way. It tastes like a blueberry muffin.
I mean, you have to have 200. And that's the other thing. I had an argument with somebody on Threads the other day where they're like, "Well,
I just downloaded that.
The author of Project 2025 just endorsed Kamala." No, first of all, both the Heritage Foundation as well as the actual Republicans.
That's a 10-hour workday.
Yeah, well, sometimes it'd be 12. If you're doing 4 days. And the Republican who actually in Oklahoma has endorsed her, they both agree that he never had any participation in the Heritage Foundation, let alone the actual Project 2025, But I was actually arguing with this person because like, well, he endorsed her. It's like, first of all, there's 200 fucking plus authors. They're all conservative. 60% of them came from his actual administration. So you can't sit there blaming on one guy, first of all, because they all have these little chunks and areas and stuff like that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, to be honest with you, the direction that they're taking this. And the fact of the matter is we got these zombie maggots, cult members, who believe this and worship this cult member. He can go on anywhere he can. I mean, what was we talking about this weekend? Arnold Palmer's penis.
Manhood.
Arnold Palmer's penis. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? We are having a presidential candidate who would be the leader of the free world talking about the size of a dick of a dead dog golfer.
It might be Trump just has penis envy.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, I mean, I think we both saw it when Nicole over on NSB and NBC, she said, I've only known people who obviously talk about other man's junk is because they're overcompensating.
Yeah.
And I mean, and he does have small hands. I mean, let's be honest. And he has small feet. So, I mean, the guy probably has a small dick and he's just...
But everything else,
so
he's got
everybody,
a big gut, he's got a big ass.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't look at his ass, but...
Well, how can you? It just floats out there.
Well, no, his jacket almost goes down to his fucking knees like his tie. But I mean, he was saying that, all these other guys who were out there golfing, then they would shower with Arnold Palmer, come walking out of the shower saying, oh, my God... Guarantee you, it was him saying, "Oh my God, how did he get so big and I'm such a fucking shrimp?" It's just ridiculous. And then, of course, he's obviously started to use profanity, which tells me one thing that's for sure. It's actually as we get into the last 14, 15 days, he's getting desperate. Mm-hmm. on this weekend, he says, like, Kamala was a shit vice president. I mean, he is saying this. Kids are out there, and families are out there. So when he's starting to say this stuff that he is getting desperate. He sees that there's a possibility that not just will he lose this election, but his ass is going to jail.
Because it's like in 16 and 20, I don't recall him going this
crazy.
This crazy.
And we thought that was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just extreme now.
But he has to go this extreme to get the attention, because what he was doing before, everybody was saying this is the same old game. Well, you can't say talking about somebody's penis is...
Well, I mean, you go up there and you talk for 90 minutes, and you're always talking about me, 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 me. Tell us how you're going to help the American people.
Yeah.
How are you going to make sure they have more money in their pockets, more money to spend? No, not about you. Oh, they're coming after me. I'm going to go in the enemy within. I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Well, I know.
What a whiny little pussy.
He is. But it's like, but nobody's going to hold him accountable to anything he says, no matter.
Well, no, I mean, you saw it over the weekend when Jake Tapper was trying to actually hold Speaker Johnson. Speaker Johnson from Louisiana is supposed to be one of the super, super Christian ones. Mm-hmm. And Jake was just like, are you okay with this language where he's out there talking about Arnold Palmer's penis? And Jake kept saying penis. Penis. And of course, Mike Johnson finally says, "Can we just stop saying that word?" I mean, I mean, his knickers went right up his ass because, it's just like, dude, this is your guy. You got to defend him or you don't.
And they're all saying Trump didn't mean that, he meant this. And then they show the quote that he said, and it's like,
up by side by side. It's like, well, no, and I as much as I dislike Jake Tapper, I got to give it to him. He called both, the youngin, who was the Virginia governor, as well as the speaker,
Youngkin.
out in regards to like this. No, this is what he said, and he put it right up on there.
And they kept saying, no, he meant this, da 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 da. And then finally, Jake said, you can say whatever you want, think whatever you want, but this is what he actually said.
Well, and I wonder if either way, was it Kamala who started it and Jake caught on to it, or did Jake do it and Kamala caught on to it? Because at her rallies, she's doing the exact same thing.
Right.
She's just like, don't take my word for it, roll the film. And I mean, she's just right on cue to do it because, I mean, literally all you have to do is just hit play and see how much of an idiot he is,
I mean, and again, we've got 15 days coming.
15 long fucking days.
And it's going to get worse before it kind of gets better. But I cannot see anybody with integrity. How could you vote for him?
Well, apparently I'm not Christian because I'm voting for her. And I got another argument. Somebody online is like, well, what gives you the right to call me non-Christian? I thought that was God's right. And I mean, that just blew everything up by then. You
hit send, didn't you?
Damn right I did.
But when have you ever seen in any election so many people from one party coming out saying they're going to vote for the other person, the other party?
People who've never voted for Democrats.
I have never seen this my entire life. You might have one or two, but we've got hundreds of people that have come out, and they're
thousands, I think.
They are campaigning.
Yeah. I think there's also a lot of silent ones out there who aren't really saying who they're going to vote for.
And again, we won't know until 2 weeks from now.
Well, you said that
a lot of people, I would say, would be afraid. If you're a Republican, you're going to be afraid to say that you're not going to vote for Trump because you're afraid for all the backlash.
Right.
But when you're at that ballot, you can do anything you want. Nobody knows who you did it.
Correct.
And I think it's going to be the same thing. It could be the reverse of what happened in 2016 because I think there were people that voted for Trump against Hillary that didn't say they were.
Yeah.
And when they got in that ballot, they didn't want to say they were voting for him. And then
I noticed something different when we were voting today. I mean, and it may have been years ago. Maybe I'm just kind of like overlapping them. But usually when we went in to get our ballots, they would ask us Republican or Democrat. They didn't ask us this time.
Well, no, because this is the general election. If it had been a primary, they would have asked that.
Okay, well maybe I'm getting the mixed up.
Because you're voting on all of them.
Yeah.
Because during the primary,
it was easy. During
the primary, it is like you would either vote for the Republican candidates who you wanted for or the Democrats, so you get a different ballot or whatever. But I will tell you one thing where I just wish people would play by the same rules or whatever. I mean, before, like on early here in Texas, early voting used to be a Republican thing. All the Republicans used to do early voting or whatever. And it was just like they would always get big head lead or whatever in an election. They would win.
How many years ago was that?
I would probably say it changed in probably the last 10 years.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden, Democrats
caught on,
and they started doing the early vote. And so now primarily it's the Democrats that are doing it across the country.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you said that, prior to us coming online here, that you were looking, and apparently there's long lines on a lot of the extra early voting places.
Yeah.
Is there any benefits to early voting?
Well, yeah, you don't want to deal with election day. I mean, it's crazy election day.
Because you got to go into your one spot.
Yeah, and just pick the time of the day that you got some free moments to say, okay, I'm going to block out an hour here and go, boom,
But let me finish. But then once the Democrats started primarily doing the early voting, then the Republicans
that's smart.
That lead, like in Texas, where the Republicans lead the House and Senate or government here, then they decided they're going to shrink the early voting days.
Right.
I mean, used to it was growing and growing and growing, and then all of a sudden it started shrinking.
Well, didn't they also eliminate, just an easy boom down ballot?
Yeah, because then used to they had it where it's like at the very beginning you could do a total ticket. You could say Republican or Democrat, and you press that button, it went
down
all
to
the way
local.
down.
Can't do that
and
now.
It's like Republicans
You literally go page by page by page by
because
page.
Republicans, that's what they would all do or whatever. But then once the Democrats started doing it, then at the last election, 2020, is when they got rid of it. And if my dad always voted a straight Republican ticket. I mean, he kept telling all his friends, yeah, I voted for straight Republican ticket or whatever. And I guarantee you, if he was still alive and was able to vote in 2020,
he'd be frustrated, pissed.
Oh, he would have given them hell, because what happened to me voting Republican all the way straight down is. And the Republicans just, once they know the other party's doing it better than them, they get rid of it.
Well, I mean, that just proves there's gerrymandering consistently going on, as they continue to learn. Oh, they've caught up to us. Oh, they figured this out. Let's change it to make it more difficult. I mean, I think part of the reason that, your early voting changed isn't just because there was protests or there's potential political violence. I think it's they have eliminated early voting stations.
This one, what I heard specifically, because it's a school. They got also a school there at this church, and when you're there voting, you get people from each campaign saying, "Come vote for me."
Was it because it was a private school, or because it's actually a public school? Because remember the one.
Well, it's a church. It's a private school.
Because remember the girl, the woman we were standing in back of. I mean, her actual precinct on election day is an elementary school.
Well, yeah. So is mine.
Well, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to that.
Well, it's not. It's a middle school, not an elementary, but it's a middle school.
But I figured it out now.
What?
If it's private school and rich kids go there, we don't want to actually interrupt their education. But if it's a public school, fuck them.
Well, no, I just think
got it
in the Trump era, things are violent. Everybody's talking about protesting and all this other stuff so it's just like people just don't want to work.
Just to play off of the private school versus the public school, in Project 2025, there's actually remember we signed up for selective service when we were 18 years old.
Okay.
Well, now in there's actually a requirement for public students only to actually take an aptitude test for the military, not just men but also females as well. They don't have to in private schools. Just public schools. If they receive public funding,
could that
fair?
be because?
Why is that fair?
Because they're receiving public funding.
No, because
this is to say you're going into the military,
right? But it's publicly funded.
So it's what about these other kids who are actually private? Has nothing to do.
because
You know this is discriminatory. You know this.
No, it's not discriminatory.
The rich is basically getting their kids in private, so it's like rich people.
This is a bone spur moment.
I actually have some. So I gotta let me research this real quick.
This is your typical bone spur where Daddy actually got you out of it, like they did with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Out of going to Vietnam 5 times deferments. Whether it would be like I'm in education, I'm in military school, which. I'm sorry, you're in military school? You need to join the military and go to Vietnam. And just think, he's such a dumb fuck. If he had joined the military and gone to Vietnam, we wouldn't be in this situation because he would not have gotten out of there.
So ironically, Rick Singer, do you know that name? Rick Singer?
Sounds familiar.
Rick Singer was the guy who got all those rich kids into college.
Oh, yeah.
He just got out of prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the irony.
Yeah, this is like especially the entertainment area where all the parents paid to get their kids into school.
But the irony is his job. He's going back into advising students on how to get back into college. I shit you not.
It literally is a cesspool when it comes to these super rich people.
Yeah. So Rick Singer, the man convicting of orchestrating the so-called Varsity Blues college admission scandal, has continued to advise prospective undergrads on their college admission while serving his sentence in federal prison. So he's out now.
Now, have you heard about Musk paying people
to
sign a pledge
of
that to the Constitution and that you're going to vote for Donald Trump? And every day until the election, someone will win $1 million.
Oh,
yeah.
But he's targeting just the swing states like Pennsylvania. Which has been proven it's not legal.
I went to Madison, Wisconsin last weekend. Blue, that's a blue state. It's a
No.
battleground.
Wisconsin is, yeah.
No, it's a battleground.
Yes, also, but the city
Madison
of
is-
Madison is hardcore blue.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Madison
No,
is blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is
You got Wisconsin University there. Party school. USA.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing. The Republicans hate anytime that we're in a swing state in a blue area that colleges are there. They hate it because
they don't want college people to vote.
No, I mean, apparently, and I forget where. I think it's either Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. I'm not sure which college it was, which state it was. The kids were receiving these threatening text messages, saying that if you do this, you can go to jail. And this is a felony. I mean, it's the Republicans sending this. I mean, basically scaring them out of voting. And it's just like, this is the tactics they use. And apparently there's a law enforcement investigation into it.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. It's just ridiculous out there.
I mean, you could say the good old days. Like when I went to college or whatever, they encouraged all of us to vote while we were in college.
Well, this is interesting because I was in North Carolina. I saw it on one of the actual social media platforms. And this was a white guy, an older white guy, which I thought was pretty impressive. He was clearly voting blue. But, I mean, he was almost in tears because he literally saw this super huge crowd marching towards to register to vote of African-American college individuals. And that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to actually have more individuals in the younger generation start registering to vote. Even if they're going to vote for Republican side, I don't care.
Right.
Just get involved in the process.
But so far of the states have already started their early voting. There are record crowds going. I mean, Georgia's got it. North Carolina's got it.
But it's because the Republicans are coming out. That's according to the Republicans.
Well,
and I'm just like, well, first of all, folks, let me just, and this is where I'm getting the other arguments. I was like, let me set the record straight. Yes, you can actually talk about how many individuals have actually done early voting. You can actually talk about where they have actually done the early voting, but you cannot name them, and you cannot not name their party affiliation. So all this is like, well, Republicans are actually leading by 20%. Fuck you, you don't know this. Secretary of States in these states are not allowed to actually give that information out. Mm-hmm. That may be, first of all, they're not counting the votes until.
Yeah.
And
right.
And then again, maybe they are 20% over. Doesn't mean they're all voting for Donald Trump. I mean, we got a lot of those red people are going to vote differently.
I'm going to be interested to see how the first couple of days here in Texas, because from what I've seen on Facebook, there's been some long lines to different spots in the Dallas area.
I mean, naturally, you look at the big kind of population centers, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, El Paso. These are blue areas. These are solid blue areas. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know they've been trying, especially with this Mike Johnson mayor who flip-flopped when he actually 2 months after became the mayor again, flip-flopped, became a Republican all of a sudden here. You know, I don't know what was up with that, but they're trying here to kind of dredge up. It's like, oh, this is a purple city. Fuck you. No, it's not. This is a blue city. Blue city through now. You go in the suburbs? Absolutely. You go to Highland Park? Absolutely. We get that, you know.
My U.S. representative, I mean, it used to be red, and then what was it, 6 years ago? Colin Allred came and flipped it to blue, and it's been blue ever since.
Well, let's hope it stays blue now that he's running for Senate.
Which I believe it should, because it is, and then hopefully he can upset and Cruz and take the Senate seat.
Well, what they're saying is Cruz, and we can jump straight onto this one. Cruz is obviously one of the, if not the most vulnerable one on the Republican side. And, you know, there was an analysis done basically on a nonpartisan people, and they talked about the statewide offices here in Texas in particular. And they basically said, you know, they've taken the governorship, they've taken the lieutenant governorship, the attorney general, every state office, but for some, and by large percentages. But it's always Cruz, who's always winning that 1.5%, 2%. Yeah, guys, it's probably Cruz. Mm-hmm. You know, he's a horrible campaigner. You know, I mean,
he looks like Grandpa from the Monsters of the '60s show.
He's just an angry SOB. I mean, I'm clearly probably the only one who watched the debate between him and Colin.
I had it taped.
Yeah, but I
haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Well, I mean, literally, you know, he tries to make himself out to be kind of a softer type of candidate. You know, I'm more bipartisan. Dude, you're hated by your own colleagues on the Republican side in the Senate. There's no way you're even bipartisan with them, you know, number one. But then all of a sudden, probably 5 minutes in there, you could talk normal like this, and you can actually have a decent debate, which Colin was. He's screaming like that. I'm like, good God, are you that fucking angry? I mean, he's just a horrible individual, you know. And I think I did post this actually on Threads. Like, I can't even imagine any woman would want to ever sleep with him. Just gross.
Doesn't he have a couple of kids?
He does, and I mean, I feel sorry for the kids because apparently one of the kids doesn't like him. Well, you know, I don't know what. I mean, she's like their mid-teens or something like that. You know, kind of like the Claudia with Conway's kid.
Yep.
So, but you want to jump back on Musk because this motherfucker.
Yeah.
So I did argue on Threads with somebody again.
He'll stay up hours at night doing all this shit.
Well, this one in particular, I forget how it kind of started off, and somebody had posted something particular, like, oh, the leftist and this and that, and I was like, he is a racist, you know, and we went through and basically outlined certain things, particularly on his policies. It's like, and he's actually lockstep in with the Heritage Foundation and the Project 2025. And he's just using Trump, first of all. He doesn't really believe in anything Trump says. And Trump doesn't believe anything he says because he takes away from Trump's spotlight, you know. And they started coming back. I mean, he's like, oh, you're a racist. Like, did you not read my post? You know, I mean, he is from South Africa. He is for apartheid. And then all of a sudden I started seeing these additional responses. He's African American. What? I was like, are you serious? I was like, and then, of course, I'd like, you know, just for the record, no, South African. You know that the very furthest country in Africa, all the way down the bottom, where the whites were in apartheid until the mid-1990s, Nelson Mandela, you remember that shit? I mean, it's just ridiculous on how they are, like, salivating after this guy. And they just don't realize it. They are being fooled, and they're like a zombie maggot cult members who are just being, you know, falling like,
Well, it's like you can't, I mean, with the MAGA, you cannot have any debate with them. We're used to, you could debate people, and then you go back and forth, and then it's like there might get to a point you're not going to agree, because it's just like sometimes it's like I look at it this way, you look at it this way, or whatever, and
and that's okay.
And that's fine. That's how it's supposed to be. But it's like you get these whatever you say is like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, you know, the most harshest that I call them on this whole back and forth, I call them cult members. I don't call them names. I don't say, you know, different adjectives on what they are and this. I'm obviously mentally retarded.
You are.
I'm a racist. I'm handicapped. I've been called everything possible. Does your mother or father know what you think? I'm like,
well, but that's not name calling to you, because they're just accurately calling you what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You're kind of over dramatic. That's fine.
I'm not over dramatic. I'm to the point.
Yeah, but could you say any of that stuff directly to somebody's face that you didn't know?
I would be more than happy.
No, you would not.
Oh, no.
No,
I will tell you, if it's a MAGA person and all this stuff is, no, he would. I mean, normal circumstances, no.
And actually, even if it's somebody who's Republican and supporting him that are civilized, I'm not going to jump on them.
You're right.
But the minute they start going off, I mean, when you had your little friend here that time, I was biting my fucking lip. Trust me, because I was about to go off on her. Because I'm just saying, I mean, don't. The thing about it is they get.
Does she watch this podcast?
No, that's fine.
They get these ideas because he's up there saying different things and got other individuals and surrogates saying things, and they take it as the gospel,
right?
Instead, it's like if you open a fucking book and read, or even a research book or something.
Page 3 of the article.
I mean, the key is it's like okay, they always say the election was stolen. All right, then bring your evidence. If there was any kind of evidence that was just brought, you could convince the whole country that it was.
The one that I saw today was like, when we were standing in line to vote, it was like, no. They did not lose those 63 court cases because they didn't have standing. They just didn't have the right paperwork. I was like, what fucking earth are you on? They had no standing whatsoever. There was no legitimate. And then when they were actually allowed to take it a step further, they couldn't bring any evidence. Mm-hmm. They said hearsay here and hearsay there.
And that's the part is like if you just have any of the evidence, just show it. And it's just like you can convince a lot of people if you had the evidence. But
and you had 4 years
and you had nothing
to show the evidence.
Right.
And you still have it. Now we're already in the process of setting the groundwork saying that the election is going to be stolen if he loses. He's going to declare victory, and I mean, even if it's a landslide, he's going to say the Democrat. I mean, I'm like, even if she wins Republican state, the Democrats did that. I mean, come on, people. I mean, let's just say, just hypothetically, that and it could happen, here in Texas, because there's actually more Democrats registered in Texas than Republicans, believe it or not. They just don't get out and fucking vote. Mm-hmm. But let's just say they all got out and they voted, and all of a sudden it flipped one percentage, and all of a sudden 51 to 49, whatever it may be. Colin gets in and she wins Texas. They'll say no, even though for the last 27 years the entire electoral system, as well as everything else in the entire state, have been run by the GOP. We Democrats stole it.
But the one thing that I was like, no, Trump's gonna, if he loses, they're gonna try everything in the world to say it was stolen. Everything.
Well, they're gonna try to kick it to the House of Representatives.
They've already got it where, because like in Georgia, they tried to pass these laws where everybody could not certify.
Yeah, do you remember what I was talking about that one of the other podcasts?
Do I remember what?
We talked about this in one of the other podcasts, remember. Where he actually had, I think it was 3 additional members on the actual election certification board.
Yeah,
that were all MAGA people, and then they actually took away the responsibility of certification from the actual Secretary of State, which legally they're not supposed to. And then they started implementing this, like all these other rules and accountabilities and stuff like this. Every single one of them were actually classified as unconstitutional.
But the one thing where they're going to try, believe me, they are, and you're going to have people that are going to certain counties that are not going to want to certify theirs or whatever. But all that stuff is. But on most all the battleground states, I think all of them but one, the governor is a Democratic governor. So they have a little bit more control.
Yeah, it's Georgia.
Georgia's the only one that's the only one. All the other ones have as a Democratic governor, so that they've got a little bit more control over the situation. But it's like, no, they're going to
try it. I mean, you've got the third person in line to the presidency currently in office who's already saying that he thinks there's going to be fraud done, and that's the Speaker of the House. It's like, dude, you don't even know. I mean, seriously, just because you want to be up his ass? I mean, come on. It's just ludicrous.
But no, they're going to try. And
they will.
And it's like you're going to have, and that's the key is also, if you early vote, there's going to be less people antagonists against or whatever trying to monitor all the stuff is but until Election Day. Because they're going to be there on Election Day at all these polling places.
Yeah, they're going to be out in the poll monitors. They've got an army of 100,000 poll monitors, which are basically just like hoods and thuds.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe they have 100,000, but
they're going to try. But that's going to happen more on Election Day than early voting, I believe.
Well, I mean, and the interesting thing about, in 2020 as well as in 2016, Trump was against mail-in ballots. He was against early voting. He's all for it now. It's like, yeah, you realize that the Democrats actually step up.
Right.
They do vote early. They do the mail-in ballots.
Because, the biggest thing where he thought everything was stolen was, it's like, I'll use like Michigan as a prime example in 2020.
Well, it's actually all the states, to be honest with you.
Because at that time it was controlled by the Republicans, and they basically said early voting, you cannot, because usually they would do early voting. They would assume when you
but most states they can't now.
Well, but they used to at the time. It's like when you had early voting, when they came through, they would kind of count it while you went along and so then when the election first came, when the election first started, their first.
You already had a starting point.
Yeah. You already had a starting point because all the early voting then basically went bam. And that's where, like in Texas, 6 years ago, it was like, no, not Colin Alt. Who's the other one? The guy from El Paso. Beto. It's like, okay, he had all the early voting came in, and Beto was up like 7 points. Uh-huh. And then all of a sudden, during the course of the night, it came through in cruises. But what the Republicans basically started to do and had control, they said, well, no, you can't do this. So ultimately, then the election day, usually it was the Republicans. So then ultimately they counted those first. And so Trump had this big lead. And then when they ultimately started counting the early voting, and then it went a big swap. Oh, they stole it from me.
The two states that they really kind of want to contest, mainly because of the actual number of actual electorals. It was actually Georgia, which we just find me 11,900, because again he was actually leading, and all of a sudden they did the dump of all the actual mail-ins, and overseas, which is another thing I want to talk about. And then Pennsylvania was the same situation, but by law that the Republicans passed in their state, you couldn't count the mail-ins until after the day of election and everybody else has voted. So they did it to themselves. But then again, no.
But they did it that way, so it gave them this theory where it's like, okay, I'm way ahead, and then all of a sudden I don't. So it's like, and so then it's like the stupid people that believe them.
Yeah. Well, it also, they were not allowed to publish the information prior to the election either, like they're trying to do right now. But it's just a false pretense in regards to why they actually even did it. There's no doubt about it.
So it's going to be an interesting 14 days.
It's going to be a hectic day. Hopefully I won't be arguing too much online.
Oh, no, you will be.
No, I'm going to try to stay off certain days. I'm going to try to stay off certain days. I'm going to try to stay off certain days. So,
oh, no, you're going to be on it every day that ends in a Y.
Well, we're going to actually probably have a triple header on this day in podcasting because we've actually kind of catch up on some stuff.
And we're out of drinks right now.
Yeah, but the next one I definitely want to talk about some sports because we've got obviously the seasons starting for some of the games.
And why is that?
Because you got tickets.
Yeah, you're a little slow on that one.
I know.
Oh, I forgot.
Well, there was the World Series. There's just so much going on right now as we start gearing up for basketball, and we won't talk about Dallas Cowboys, but anyways, thanks for joining us on this little episode of Politics for Buddies and Banters, the Uncensored Podcast. I'm Rick.
I'm Michael.
I'm Alex.
Go vote! Vote, 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 vote.